into that one podcast where you get the template to change your humble beginnings. Welcome to the Undercover Millionaires podcast. And today we are having a phenomenal guest. I'm so excited to have Bruno because, hey God, you see that one person that when you know that you just have him on the podcast, people are like, oh my God, they're so sad. That guest was everything. That is who Bruno is. And Bruno will be talking to us and sharing his journey with us, just like we have done with the other guests. We've had Gold Ukegu, who talked about she does Forex. She talked about her journey through Forex and how she became a big deal. We've had Dayo Olajuron, who's a digital marketer, and how he became a big deal through that. We've had Dolapo Amzat, who is into e-commerce and how he also talked about how he became a big deal through that. So today we are having Bruno Nwogu, who is called the Einstein of marketing. We'll have Bruno introduce himself in a bit. So if you're new to the podcast, this is the Undercover Millionaires podcast, where you get to hear stories of young people, or let me say people, don't let me put it in brackets, people who have done a big deal with their lives. You know, they started from almost nothing and they rose to not just something, they rose to become millionaires. I mean, people who command huge amount of money based on the fact that they've made so much money from their job and they are attaining or close to attaining financial stability. So, Bruno, welcome again to the podcast. Can you hear me
Thank,
clearly, please?
yes, I can. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
That's a very difficult question. What specifically would you like to know?
Okay, what will you tell an audience who is curious about how did Bruno become a big deal? So, can you tell us that part
I've heard that's a
about
much
yourself?
better. That's a much better question. So, how did Bruno become a big deal? Well, the story starts in. The story starts way beyond that, but the real gist of the story starts in 2020. Back in 2020, I used to work in the gym, and I used to work as a customer care rep in the gym. I was taking like 40,000 home, and I used to
Wow.
go 7 days a week for 3 weeks straight, right? And I used to spend about 30,000 naira on transport. But all of that changed when COVID hit. How? So when COVID hit, I lost the job because it was a gym and gyms were shut down. So they said we should go home. So I went home. I tried learning another skill, data science. That didn't work out for me so well. Now, on July 5th, 2020, my life changed forever. I was on my way to church that fateful Sunday morning, and I was
Okay.
using my iPhone. I was pressing my iPhone and I was, just walking just in the bus, right? In the middle of the bus, a Moluwe. For those of you who probably don't know what a Moluwe is a it's a public transport. And so um, we I got on the bus and for
Okay.
some reason I was like, you know what, let me go sit down by the side of the window, right? The window side. And if you're a Lagosian, you probably already know how that goes, right?
Window
So
seat, yeah.
I go sit down by the window, and then all of a sudden, somebody comes and grabs my phone. Right? They grab
Oh
my
my
phone
God.
and literally by the window, and they peeled my phone out of my hand. Like I literally was struggling, and they peeled one finger at a time till that phone was gone.
Wow.
And
Like the person was your finger off the phone.
yes, the person because I was holding on to it tightly, and the person, I mean, it's just one hand versus two hands, right? So the person literally peeled like one finger with the other, like you're peeling a banana, like one finger, like the person
Wow.
peeled my fingers away from my phone. And I remember watching into the darkness as the guy disappeared, as the Molue tried accelerating, but it was too slow. And I kept thinking to myself, should I run after this guy and try to get my phone back? But it felt like that was a very terrible advice because it was quite dark. It was quite early in the morning, about like 7 a.m. And so I remember going to church that day and I was so angry with myself. I kept asking myself simple things like, why did I sit down there? Like, why? Like, I just kept beating myself up. And I remember asking myself the question that changed my life. And that's why today I'm a fan of questions. In fact, everything I do is about asking the right questions.
Questions. Mm, the
And
Right.
so I asked myself a question that changed my life. That question was, Bruno, what can you do right now that can make you money? But that wasn't a good enough question. Then I had to rephrase the question and I asked, what do wealthy people have that poor people don't have? And I realized that wealthy people have at least two things. Number one is they have something of value or something of perceived value, right? And number two is that they have a way of distributing that value. And so began my pursuit of trying to emulate these two things, have something that's perceivably valued and find a way to distribute it to as many people as possible. And that's how I began. So what happened next was an act, so today feels like an act of providence. So July 5th was when that incident happened. 2 days later, or 4 days later rather, July 9th, I'm talking to my friend Oge and she's telling me about this side hustle that you can start. You can make money online during COVID. And I was like, I don't really give two shits about this, right? Like, what exactly do you do? How do you make money? And then she says something about marketing, and I literally wanted to enter the ground because prior to now, let's go back a few years ago, I had sworn that I would never, ever do
Marketing.
anything sales and marketing, like ever.
When
But
was this years ago? If this your scenario was 2020, right? That's during COVID.
yes,
Am I correct?
yeah, yeah.
When was it a few years ago that you decided you do not want to do
No, it
anything?
wasn't one. It wasn't 2 years ago. It was more than 2 years ago. It's probably like when I was much younger as a kid, right? I just hated sales and marketing. I felt like it was. I always felt like, why do you have to get? Why do you have to force people to buy
I
shit?
knew it. Stop begging.
Like, let them. If they want to buy, they'll buy. If they don't want to buy, let them be. Oh my god, how naive I was and how silly I was. I thought that's how the world works, but apparently that's not how the world works, my love. Anyway, so I swore proud to them that I'd never do anything sales and marketing. Literally, if you show me a job and you said, Bruno, this job will pay you $1 million, right? $1 million, I would have told you that I was not going to do it because, honestly speaking, like I literally thought that why do I have to force people to buy stuff they don't want? If they want it, they buy it. If they don't want it, they don't buy it, right?
Right,
So,
yeah.
but now the odds had changed. The stakes were different. I'm in COVID, right? We're in COVID. I can't get a normal job.
And you
I
were
don't have a
desperate. Let's
I
say,
don't have a phone, right? And I
yeah,
need to make money because I need to, I'm an adult, right? And
yeah.
so I'm like, okay, you know what? Even though I hate sales and marketing, I'm just gonna like I don't have any option at this point, right? It's not like I have a choice. So I say, I'm just gonna give it a try. So buy the program. I literally don't open it till like July 20, 2020. That's like 11
Do you
days.
program this was? Do you remember whose program you bought at the time?
Yes,
Which
I did.
person?
I remember it was one of my mentors, Tony Motor Show. That was his program. It was his flagship program at the time, right? So, um, so when I bought the program, and I remember I finally decided that, you know what, I'm just gonna give this a try. In fact, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I didn't open that program because I believed in it. I opened it because I felt like the claim was too good to be true.
Mm,
My friend told me she had made like 100K in 4 months, and I was like, 100K. I was like, yeah. She was like, my God. And she said she had not done anything serious about it. Like she was just taking it like, by this. I was like, you've made 100,000. Like if I make
mm.
100,000, I'm good. Like if I can make just 100K from this, I am good. Like
That's
my problems will be solved. I'll get my phone back because the phone that was stealing cost like about 100K then. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna give this stuff a try. I'm just gonna like, hear what they have to say. Not really. I was just like, these guys are probably scammers, and I'm just gonna tell everybody on my social media. Then I have like very few followers. So I said I'm just gonna use them as a case study and say, hey guys, you know how you do reviews of stuff. Say, I bought this program. I'm gonna share with you how it works. So that you don't make my mistake. And then I literally open up the program, And just 3 modules in, I was like, holy shit.
Well,
I know
oh
what these
no.
guys are doing. I was like, I know what these guys are doing. Like, I can do this shit. Like, literally, that's exactly the light bulb I felt in my head. I was like, wait, I know all this. Like, and here is where it gets really interesting, right? Because if you go back 5 years before that, that's before the incident 2020, or let's say 6 years, I was in
Yes.
a class on one specific day. I was looking, we had statistics. I was in class, and a friend of mine walks up to me. He gives me his phone and he says, "Oh, I'm trying to wipe my phone. I have some books, some PDFs there. I don't want to lose them. Can I transfer them to your phone? When I'm done, I'll transfer them back, right?" So he transfers them to my phone. There are lots of books there, lots of them I didn't read, but two of them got my attention. The first of the book was called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. The
Hmm.
second one was called Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion by Dr. Robert Cialdini. And for some reason, Dr. Robert Cialdini's book stuck with me. I opened it and I never was able to put it down. I felt like I found the secrets to the universe by getting
So
people
you
to
read
actually,
like sorry, yeah, you read the book like 5 years before 2020, or
yes,
that's when
5 years
you
before,
knew.
5 years before 2020, about 5 to 6 years before 2020. So I
Okay.
was already familiar with the concepts of persuasion, influence, all that kind of stuff.
But
But
you didn't implement.
I didn't really implement it. I just knew it theoretically. I knew why it worked. I understood it from a very theoretical, fundamental, perspective. But it was really only when I got the course that I really was able to drill down and begin to see all those concepts begin to take shape and form. And because I've had years to kind of like meditate on it and to kind of like play around with it in my mind and to kind of like even understand why the concepts work the way they did. When I saw the course, literally it was like all the jumbled up stuff in my head all these years became solid. And
Hmm.
I was like, I know this shit. Like I know how this works. And so immediately, the course was like 12 modules. I only did like first 3 modules, and I was off to the races. Started doing everything that the course was saying. Started doing all of that stuff. And within my first 1 month, I made 1 million. Like literally, first 1 month of an online business from somebody who hated sales and marketing, I did
You
one
did
million.
1 million, and your friend did 100K in 3 months.
Yes, I did 1 million. Like it was remarkable. I remember looking at my account and I was like, Bruno, you just made a millionaire in less than 30 days. How is
So
that even?
let me link it to this next question because it's still interwoven what you're saying now. So, was there a specific moment, or was it that moment that you realized that you officially hit a millionaire status,
No,
or what's a particular milestone that you felt, oh yes, now I'm a millionaire?
if you were to ask me, I feel like being a millionaire in Nigeria is it's kind of easy. Like if we're judging a millionaire by somebody who has 1 million naira, then probably lots of people are millionaires, right? But I don't think so. I think probably a millionaire would be somebody who has like multiples of that,
Million,
right?
yeah.
In assets and all of that. So I didn't consider myself a millionaire then, but I just felt the sense of wealth and freedom that I'd never felt in my life. I remember one of the most freeing moments, one of the most freeing moments in my life was when. Sorry, give me 1 second. So one of the most freeing moments in my life was when I. So one of the freeing moments in my life was when I went to a restaurant with my childhood friends, and instead of like looking at the price of the food, trying to do the math and say, oh, um, how much is this gonna cost? Do I have the money? I literally was like, you guys can order whatever you want, right? It's fine. That has been the highest point of wealth I had felt. Okay, there was another point though, right? But
Whoa.
that comes much later. But at that point in my life, that's the most wealthy I felt. It wasn't the money in my pocket. It was the fact that I know that I didn't have to
You
bother
had
about
enough.
money ever again.
Yeah.
And so I, um, that's how I started. And then I made 1 million my first month. I made another million the next month. I made another million the third month. And that's how I knew that this shit was not a fluke and this was actually something predictable and consistent. And by the third month, the course owner I bought from, he was like, "Yo, this guy is one of the best case studies we've had. Let's use him as the proxy for other people." And so I started getting people reach out to me and like, "Bro, how are you succeeding with this? I'd like to also do something similar, right?" And so people started reaching out to me, and that's how Bruno Nwogu became a big deal.
Wow. Wow. I can say wow 1,000 times over. Wow.
I know,
Wow.
right?
So when did you earn that title, the Einstein of marketing? And also, was it before this time or after this time that you got into iTicket remote selling? Because I know that starting out, I don't think you were doing iTicket. Am I correct?
Exactly. So I wasn't doing high ticket. Like, so the journey for high ticket starts just after, shortly after that.
Okay. So can we say iTicket actually made your journey to, should I say, financial stability? Did it make it faster? You going into iTicket sales?
Yeah, it may be faster actually. So, yeah, simple answer, yes, it may be faster.
Hmm. For the Einstein of marketing, when did you get this title? From 2020 till now? Because I'm calculating in my head. That's like 4 years plus. It's even up to 5 years because 2025 is still on. So let's say 4 years plus. Within this 4 years plus frame, when did you get that tag, the Einstein of marketing?
So I think it was one day I was teaching my students, right? We were
What year was this? Can you remember?
this. So this was probably like 20. This was probably like 2021 or 2022. So
Okay.
I was I was teaching my students, right? And so in the process, I was explaining to them the concept of value, all right, how what makes something valuable, offers, that kind of stuff. And so I was explaining to them the concept of value, and I was also using the concepts of physics. So I was marrying physics, economics, and marketing together because I'm a student of physics, I'm a student of human behavior. And so the two subjects are things that I really, really enjoy talking about. And so in that process, one of the students is like, "Bro, like I've never seen somebody explain marketing the way you did." And he's like, "My God, you're like freaking Einstein of marketing." And then I
Wow.
say, "Huh, that was like a very, I was like, I don't know if you've seen this movie, Fantastic Four, the most recent, not the one that's coming out, of course, but the
No,
most
I haven't
one
seen
before
it
that. So there's at the end of the movie, that thing basically, the fourth guy, the thing was looking at something, and then he was like, "Wow, that's fantastic." And then Mr. Fantastic looks at him and says, "Say that again." And I was like, "Yeah, it's fantastic." And then he smiles, right? And so when my student says, "Wow, like you're like the Einstein of marketing," I was like, "Huh?" I was like, "Say that
That's
again."
one.
And then it was like, "Yo, like, yo, this is incredible. Like, you're the Einstein of marketing." I'm like, I actually like that name. It helps you, it captures the essence of the genius without saying this person is a genius at marketing, right?
Yeah. We
That's how really I got there. It wasn't me that woke up one day and said, "Yo, I'm the Einstein of marketing." No, 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 no. It was somebody else. I was like, "You are the
that's
Einstein of marketing," and I was like, "I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it."
wow. So first off, I want to establish this to people that are listening that a lot can change in 4 years. In fact, a lot can change in 2 years. Because look at where you were coming from. Although you read those books, but you never really implemented. Then 2020 was like a turning point, and then you began to do right things that you knew, and then you had a guide that further helped you accelerate your progress. And then in like 2 years, somebody already called you the Einstein of marketing. So it means that a lot can really change from when you know something and begin to implement and you begin to get better. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for that part. Thank you so much, Bruno. So this next question, we're entering into your process because people will be like, okay, now we know when Bruno started. Okay, now we know how Bruno started. Now, what really is helping Bruno be what he is, or what has really helped him so far get to the top? So this question is on your sales process. Actually, I took one of your course one time. I think we'll discuss that much later. What has really helped you convert leads into buyers? And what's the secret to your high conversion rate? Because there's nothing else that will put you on top except the fact that you have good success, or let me say good turnover, when you convert these leads into buyers. So what's the secret to your high conversion rate? Can you tell us that?
So first of all, I'll just be completely frank. I don't think there's anything special about what I do. What I think that's really
Mm,
special is that what I do isn't something that's common, at least not to my the best of my knowledge and my ability. It's not something that's common in my climate, in our culture, especially
you mean
the
it
way we
gets closing?
yes, especially the way we think about sales, right? Which is originally the problem I faced when I was growing up. I used to think that sales was about getting people to do what they didn't want to do, right?
Mm,
And so I've had to redefine what I think selling is
right.
and how to actually get people to buy. And I
So what
think
is
that
selling to
really
you?
is the genius thing. I beg your pardon.
Can you tell us what selling is to you in this test? Since you had to redefine, what is selling to you? What is sales?
So to me, selling is a twofold process, right? Selling number one is getting somebody. Selling number one is discovery. What do I mean discovery? You're discovering discovery happens in two ways. Number one is you're getting somebody to discover if they need your help or they don't need your help. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Right? And the second fold of selling, or rather discovery, the second fold of discovery is getting you to discover or you discovering for yourself if this person you're talking to is fit for what you have to sell, meaning they have a need, they've displayed, they've signaled to you that they are the right fit for your product and service.
Mm,
So, contrary to popular opinion, where I sell to everybody who has a pulse, no, my goal is to sell to only people that I am convinced need what I have to offer, right?
and you
And
can
that
buy
means
it.
that it's
Yeah,
okay not to sell to everybody because everybody doesn't need what I'm offering,
very true.
right? So that's the
Very
first thing
true.
I believe about selling. The second part of sales is after we after discovery has occurred, right? The next part about sales is getting people to decide, helping people decide. So selling
Mm,
is discovery and helping people make good decisions. That's what it is.
I like that definition. So can we say your secret is that you discover well whether these people can want what you're selling and whether they can afford? Is that what we can call your secret, or is something else? Your secret to high conversion rates?
You could, I mean, fair enough, you could say that. My secret, if there's anything like that, would be that I really try to know before I try to sell anybody, I get to really know that they have to convince me that they need my help, that they want my
They
help.
have to convince him. They have to be the one to convince you. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Wow, you're
If
operating.
they can't convince me that they want my help, then I'm not gonna sell them.
Mm. Hmm. Wow, wow. Okay, for someone who wants to start selling high tickets offers like what you do now, and I know you work remote, right? So
Yeah.
what's the first thing you should do? What's the first anybody wants to start selling high ticket offers like what you do? What's the first thing they should do, or what's the first thing they should know?
Hmm. Let me think about that.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to start selling like high ticket sales, get into high ticket sales, what's the first thing they ought to know? Honestly, I'd say like the first thing they need to do is to get the training, all right? Because look, most people think that they are good at sales, and they feel like, you know how people say, oh, I want to go and learn. Nobody is born and say this guy is a very good programmer, right? You might have
Yeah.
you might have you might have things that will make you a good programmer, right? You might have things that will make you a good lawyer. You might have things that will make you a good doctor. Let's say for a programmer, you're good at maths, you're good at problem solving. You like to stay on problems and solve them. For a doctor, you have like steady hands, all those kind of things, right? You're a surgeon, but nobody is
Mm-hmm.
inherently born and said, "All of I'm very good at being a surgeon." It doesn't work that way. It doesn't even make sense. You've got to be trained, right? It's the same thing when it
Yeah.
comes to sales. Most people think that, oh, I know how to talk. I'm good at sales. Or every of my friend tells me I'm good at talking. I have sweet mouth. And that's why they fail at sales because they think it's about talking, talking, talking. When most of the time, what you're doing when you're selling is asking questions, remember discovery, and also
Yeah.
listening
Yes.
attentively, listening effectively, right?
Attentively and effectively. Yeah.
So
Noted.
you, so that's it. People think, oh, I gotta be good at talking, like I can talk people into whatever. No, you're not gonna be very good at sales because when you come to do what we do, you're talking to people who are looking to invest thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're not gonna buy because you have a sweet mouth.
Mm.
They're not. In fact, they're only gonna buy if they genuinely feel like you've gotten them to see or they've discovered through your questions, through how you behave, through how you acted, through the questions you asked, they've gotten to discover for themselves that they need help and they want help,
And
your
help
help
them. Yeah.
specifically,
Yeah.
right? That's how you're actually going to be able to succeed in this. So if you think, oh yeah, because I'm good at talking to people, I'm very, or if you also, and here's the reverse, the case is also the reverse. If you think I'm not really good at talking to people. I'm an introvert. Some of my best students are introverts. Like some of the best students I have, they're introverts because all they just do is shut up, ask questions, and shut up. And most people would talk about themselves more than, I mean, think about this podcast. You've had me here. I've spoken more times than you have. All you've just done is ask me questions. I leave this
Yeah.
podcast feeling good about myself because, you know, you did a good job in what you did. That's typically what selling is. You get on calls and you want people to talk about their problems, what they're looking for, and then if they are able to convince you that they need help and they need your help, then yeah, you have the right to sell them. Then
Hmm. Bruno, tell us, in your selling process, what can you say is an underrated persuasion trigger that once people hear, or maybe when you get to tell this to your clients, they buy from you? Something you just use in persuading them, maybe something that, like you talked about, something that has worked over a period of time, right? There are always patterns in whatever you do, something that works.
I'll
So
just
what's that?
so it's actually
Okay.
quite simpler than that. It's not necessarily a particular phrase or anything. It's just
Okay.
it's my psychological perspective, and like I said, um, they have to convince me they need my help. If they can't convince me, I'm not willing. So I most salespeople who get on sales calls, they tend to run away from the no's. They tend to hide from the no's. Tend to hide from rejection. They don't want to hear no, right? And then they do everything to avoid hearing no. I'm quite opposite.
Hmm.
I look for the no. I go for the no. And here's the good part. I'd rather tell them no, because the more you try to push people away, the more they want to push themselves to you.
Yes. Yes, I can attest to that.
If you
Yes.
if you get on a sales call and you really are not intending to sell somebody, in fact, this is quite interesting, right? I'll tell you a quick story.
Okay.
So I'll tell you a quick story. So I have this client that I work with one on one. I coach her one on one. She has a coaching program. Her coaching program is like maybe $5,000, right? And she's not really so comfortable with sales, right? Now something interesting happened. We had like first two sessions, And in that session, I said, hey, look, how would you behave if you didn't really want to sell these people? Like if you were trying to unsell them, right? If you're trying to push them away. And she said, well, I'll be a bit more critical about the questions. I'll be, trying to ask them questions that they get to show me that they don't need my help. So instead of asking things like, oh, why do you want to do this now? I could ask a question like, oh, why don't you want to do this like 6 months from now or a year from now?
Mm,
Instead of asking them things like, are you sure you need this? Or you definitely need this? Or don't you think you need this? I'll more or less ask them questions like, you really sure that you want to do this? Like, this is a lot of money, right? And she said that the more she implemented this, the more she tried to push people away, the more she tried to, not try to sell to them, the more they sold themselves. Like the more they try to push themselves towards her. And this to me is one of the most fundamental things that has absolutely changed my mind and my perception about sales. And I feel like it is the best thing I've learned when it comes to selling.
hmm. Oh God, you're really taking us on a sales masterclass right now. I'm loving it. I'm loving it so much. Let's talk about rejection because from what you've said, I think I want to pick that. Correct me if I'm wrong. That instead of people actually or your clients reject or your leads, right, rejecting you, you actually push for them to even say no first off. So is that how you? What's the appropriate word for this? Is that how you maybe curtail the level of rejection you face or the number of rejections you face? Do you get my question?
Yeah, rejection is part of the game. Like, look, no matter how good you are, it's like thinking, no matter how hands. Let me ask you, who's the most attractive, the most attractive, the hottest man you know in the world right now?
Hmm. In the world, the hottest. That's very difficult to pick one person.
Yeah, just if you were
Okay,
to
let's
pick, let's pick
popular
two.
one.
Yeah, popular, yeah.
Okay, let's start with our ones in Nollywood. I think Tamini is good looking.
Okay. For an international audience, who would you pick?
International. I don't know his real. Okay, like is it James something Fox? I've forgotten his first name, but he's a very popular actor. You know the
Sorry,
guy.
sorry, come again.
This something Fox. I don't think I remember his first name exactly. Or let's go home. Let's go to this guy that does his popular black movies. Oh, what's that his name?
Maurice Chestnut,
No, 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 no. I mean, he produces them. He might not even act in
Tyler
them.
Perry.
Yes, Tyler Perry. Yes.
Okay, so I want to ask you this. Let's say assume that Tyler Perry is your hottest man or Timini, any of them. Do you think as attractive as they are, if they told you that, would you think it is crazy that as attractive as they are, there are still some people who wouldn't want to be with them?
Of course, I know it's not. I know definitely there'll be people like that. Nah, and it's not crazy. No,
It's not crazy, right? Why?
no. Because my spec or somebody I find good looking, my mother you see someone else's spec. We all have different tastes in people in everything actually.
So the
Yeah.
keyword you're looking for is that value, just like beauty, is based on perception. It lies in the eyes of the beholder, right?
Yeah.
You can't convince a blind man to see. You got to
Mm.
perform a miracle, right? Same way, there are some people, no matter what you're offering, if you're selling eternal life, there are still some people that will prefer to go to hell, right?
Yeah, right. That's really
So,
funny.
so if you're selling the gospel, like you're like, yo, I literally the gospel of Jesus Christ is like believe and be saved. There's nothing else you have to
Yeah,
do, right? Some people will
basically,
still prefer to go to hell. So if the creator of the universe has done all of that, and still people have a choice to say no, who are you and what are you offering that people will not still reject you?
yeah. So let's put it this way: you do not feel any type of way when rejected. You just believe that not everybody will accept what you have, right? Is that it?
That I don't feel any type of way being rejected will be false because that would just mean I'm lying and I do not have emotions. But one of my core philosophy when it comes to selling, and it's something I had to train myself, is that I have zero attachment to the outcome. I am outcome independent. So when I get on a sales call, I'm not the one with the problem. The prospect is the one with the problem, right? I'm not the one who is trying to solve my business from dying. I'm not the one who's trying to scale my income. I'm not the one who is, who has a burning desire to have a change. All right. I'm not the
Yeah.
one with the problem. They're the ones with the problem. They're the ones who need to care more about solving their problem. The only thing they have is money and choice. If I am not moved by their money, then they don't have the power in the conversation.
Hmm. Oh,
Now, this is very hard to do for most salespeople because salespeople want the money. But if you
yes.
can train yourself to realize that the only power the prospect has over you is your desire for their money. If you don't have any desire for their money, they lose the power they have over you.
Hmm.
All power is psychological. If you don't
Yeah.
look, if somebody doesn't want what you're offering, you can't you can't manipulate them, you can't persuade them. All
You
persuasion
cannot
works.
that
You said
because I'm looking at that word persuade. You said you cannot persuade them. Like you cannot persuade someone who doesn't want. What if perhaps they do not see that they've not really seen the reason they should get it. So
you're
you
still saying
getting
the
them to
same
see.
thing. They've not been able to perceive that you have something of value. You just don't see what you see. It's perception. Remember we said it's perception of value. The same way
Can you get them to see? Can you get them to see it?
your goal in the sales call is to get them to see, but some people will still not see it. And let's face the fact, not that some people won't see it, some people just don't need it. Some people think they have a problem, but they don't. It's like going to a doctor and you're saying, so doctor, I'm sick, I have fever, I think I might be dying, and the doctor looks at you and says, no, you're not dying. You just have this mild headache and you'll be good, right? The doctor
Mm-hmm.
does the test and they figure out you're not dying. Some people genuinely don't need your solution, and that's fine. And for those who need it but decide not to go with you, it might hurt, but it's also fine. You're not for everybody. And the moment you realize that you're not for everybody, I think you start falling in love with sales.
Wow. 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 We need to wrap this up in a bit because this is even longer than we planned, but it's getting so interesting. Let me ask you like let me throw in one or two more questions. So, Bruno, if you could whisper one secret, if you could look at yourself from when you were way younger and you could say, oh, this is the one secret that could help you unlock millions or making millions, what would that one secret be? Just one.
Unlock millions, correct? That's the question.
Yes.
I'll say stop thinking about making money. Start thinking about how you can help others make money. Because the more people
Mm,
you can help make money, the more money they want to give to you.
wow. Wow. One more. If you're going to fast forward 10 years, now we've talked about your younger self. Fast forward 10 years, how will you say that the way we sell now, what will change about the way we sell now? Or will anything change? Okay, that's the question about the way we sell now. And how can people prepare ahead? Prepare to stay ahead, just like now people will say AI, AI, AI. So, what do you think, or is there anything that you think will change about the way we presently sell, and how can people prepare towards that?
So I think for the past 2,000 years of human evolution, we haven't really changed much. Our psychology hasn't really changed that much, really. The same things we're afraid of is the same things we're afraid of. The same needs and desires we have are the same needs and desires we have. The same wants we have are the same wants we have. We crave the same things: status, serenity, sex, security, um, and so many other things, right? But those are the core things: status, serenity, sex, security. Right? We always want those things, literally. Those things won't change. How we go about getting them might change. And so I feel like where sales comes in is that sales, people talk about AI, and all of that. Sales is one of those jobs that will be quite resilient to AI because nobody is going to want to buy a $100 million property from an AI chatbot. Nobody's going to want to buy something really expensive from somebody, from something they cannot really talk to or hold accountable.
Mm.
It's the same way people don't want to say and sit down and listen to two AIs talk about things that they have no relation with. People will want to talk to people. Human connection will
Needs to
not
remain.
be will not be transcended by AI. We'll just connect differently. The same way the internet came and changed how we communicate, it didn't change communication. It didn't change the need to communicate. It just changed how we communicate.
The mode of communication. Yeah.
So AI will only change how we do sales. It's not going to change the act of selling itself. Which actually reminds me, I was going to write about the future of sales. There was an article I was writing on my Twitter. I just forgot to complete it, but sales isn't
Where will you,
going anywhere anytime soon.
where will you put up this article
Oh, I really write everything on my Twitter.
on your Twitter? Okay, okay, good, good.
Yes.
So yeah, Bruno Nwogu on Twitter. Any underscore, any dot,
Bruno underscore Nwogu.
Bruno underscore. Okay. That was even the next part, like where people can connect with you. But before we get to that part, just one more question, because we like to know, who do you see or who have you seen that you're like, oh, I'm modeling this person. I see this person where I want to be and I'm modeling this person. So the question is simply, who can you say you studied and modeled to get the insane results you, Bruno, have achieved so far?
I don't have anybody I've studied a model because people are just completely different from who I am, where I am. My values are different. Lots of things are different. Over the years, I've learned a bit from like different people, and like
Okay.
Isaac Newton would say, I've been able to see far because I've stood on the shoulders of giants, right?
Yeah.
But if there's somebody I really like appreciate the work they put out, their work ethic, and their perspective to work, it's Alex Homozy. He's somebody
Alex.
that I've been following since 2022, and I've never been disappointed. So he's one guy that I highly respect.
Mm, I love him too. I love him and Leila. And that's why you're fantastic people. Okay, Bruno, where can we connect with you? Please? Where can my people look for you? People that are
Just
listening and
Google
you.
Bruno. Just Google Bruno Nwogu. I'm on all platforms. Bruno underscore Nwogu on Twitter, on LinkedIn. But just Google Bruno Nwogu. That's Bruno, like Bruno Mars, and then Nwogu, Nwogu. Nwogu. Bruno Nwogu. You can find me on all social media platforms and you can connect with me. And yeah, that's how you can find me.
Yeah, right. And is there anything you're working on right now that might come out soon that people can key into? Maybe courses, webinars.
I have a lot of things planned, but the one I have that's that I'm working on is a book about my journey, my insights to sales, and how I've been able to sell over the systems that has helped me sell over $2 million as an
Mm,
African living in Africa. That's where I'm heading. That's the thing that's in the works.
oh God. Is it available on Period yet, or it's not out yet at
It's
all?
not out yet. It's not out yet. It's not out yet.
Fingers crossed, I'll be getting that book. Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bruno, from your experience on this podcast, like from the questions and your answers, let me explain a little bit. It's just targeted at helping those who are really just coming up, to have that beacon of hope. Let me put it that way, that, okay, this person has achieved this from almost nothing. I can achieve this. So, from the whole idea of this podcast, who do you think we should definitely be bringing on this podcast next? Because Dayola spoke about you, and that's why we reached out to you. So, who else do you think we should definitely have here? Because their story would really help the up and coming generation.
Um, you have people like Joseph Don, Caleb Waneka, Tamil Lauren. Those are my guys that are doing very well also in a similar space.
Fantastic. We'll reach out to them. Again, thank you. Do you have any final words for the listeners? Anything at all?
I mean, not really. I think I've already said a lot. I think you go far by asking the right questions than giving the right answers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bruno. Thank you to all of those listening. And if you have questions for Bruno, go and look for him on other platforms. I hope perhaps he can get to respond to your questions. But this particular episode has been the longest so far, and it has been the most insightful, honestly, because you really took your time. And I want to thank you again and again and again for accepting to be here. Let's
You're
close this.
welcome.
So, Bruno, I've stopped recording, but let's talk a little bit. Again, thank you. I can thank you 1,000 times over. Thank